And we are back to the new free to play experience here in MTG Arena. We're on day 4 of our overall series challenge, and today's main objective is going to be doing a draft. In the last video, we completed the jump in events and we entered ourselves a quick draft token, which will allow us to do a quick draft for Brothers War. Which I guess I just missed the Wilds of Eldraine as I recorded the last episode on a Thursday, so I do think that's why it reset to Brothers War. This is currently the current quick draft for the next, I think, 2-ish weeks, give or take, based off of what I saw on the schedule for MTG Arena. It's an all right set. You know, it's one of those things that I would love to draft the newest set because that's typically where the most fun is. I haven't really played a ton of limited in general outside of maybe a few sealed events at my local game store. So we'll dive into the Brothers War quick draft, and I'll probably just be doing this for today's chapter just because I will go through the whole draft process, my thought process into drafting. I've turned off my secondary tool that I do sometimes have up on the overlay that would give me hints and tips on how to draft the set. So I'm going to give my perspective, but there are other means of actually getting some additional help if you are a player who's a little bit more inexperienced and are looking for some assistance while you're doing a draft. And the other thing to note about this draft is that it is a quick draft, and quick draft means that you don't actually draft against players, you draft against AI. Typically, the way the AI thinks, they usually take the best card available, regardless of color. It's not like you're playing in a pod with other players who are also trying to draft the deck. The AI are just grabbing cards and leaving you whatever else in the pack. So it may vary and may be a little strange about what cards are taken and what cards are still in packs as they get passed around. Unlike the Premier Draft, which is the other draft type that is in MTG Arena, this one's not as rewarding because it is about half the price of what it costs to actually enter in this event. We have the tokens, so we're not going to pay anything for today's event, but typically it costs 750 gems or 5,000 gold, whereas the Premier Draft is, I believe, 1,500 gems and 10,000 gold. Sometimes there are discounts on like draft tokens that you can buy from the daily deals, which you may take a quick look because that is another thing that I kind of haven't mentioned yet, but it is something that you always want to keep an eye into every time you log in, seeing what's on the daily deals, because sometimes there are things on the daily deals where you spend 50 gold or X amount of gems and you may get some gold or get gems out of it. So you always want to look out for when they do things like that, where they have some ways to get some free gems. But also thing to note is for our quests that we're actively doing, we only have to complete 3 quick draft games. We don't actually have to win them, so there's no pressure to actually win the games. But the one thing that we do get out of this, outside of whatever the next chapter is in our free to play quest, is going to be some additional gems and packs. And in quick draft, you technically don't get a second pack until you get to 7 wins, and as you win more, you have a higher chance of getting a second pack on top of whatever gems you earn. And with most events, you're trying to at least look to get into the even money zone. Typically, it's about 5 to 6 wins. I think in quick draft, it is actually 6 wins puts you over, 5 wins puts you slightly under. So 5 to 6 wins would typically be a very good draft. 7 wins is always the best, just because that's the max rewards and the guaranteed second pack. But like I said, as a new player, there's no pressure to do well here. It's just to kind of get an experience of quick drafting before you actually had to spend the currency. So it was actually a big investment if you want to do a quick draft. It is nice that they do give you the opportunity as a new player to try out quick drafting, see if drafting is for you. And quick draft is actually, I think, better sometimes than the Premier Draft because it is a format that always is rotating about every 2-ish weeks, and they always announce with the weekly announcements what the schedule is for the future quick drafts as well as other events. So it is always something you can always pay attention to if you're looking for particular sets to draft. But we'll dive into the draft and kind of see how we do. So like I said, in this, we are under no pressure to draft quickly. You can sit there and read through the cards. Opening up the first pack, we do have a land here for the Fortified Beachhead. One perspective that you could take as a drafter is you could go ahead and rare draft. This is a set that does have a second slot that could contain a rare. As you see here, the Springleaf Drum is actually a reprint from an older set, but it's in this set in this artifact slot. I can't remember exactly what they called it, but there's a slot where this could be like a uncommon, rare, or mythic artifact. So sometimes you could get a pack that has 2 artifacts in it. So this land is a land that's really particular for soldiers. So I'm not sure how many soldiers will open, but there are a decent amount of soldiers, I believe, from this set. We have like the 3 mana 1/4. We have this green soldier, which doesn't really fit with that land. We have a red soldier that has reach. Not a great blocker, but definitely something also to think about. So this is definitely a unique set, I would say. Overall, this is also the set I think that has prototypes, also introduces Power Stones, so there are some things to consider there. Also, Unearth is another ability. But it is one of those things that I'm kind of hard to find actually what I want to take here, as everything's not really popping off as something that I want to take. I could just take the land and just kind of pass and see what the next pack is. So I do think that's something I'm going to do, because I do think this is actually something that's going to be good for when we go to craft a deck. If we decide to go the soldiers route, having additional copies of this will make it easier for us not to have that card later down the road. But I'm not committed to blue or white in this scenario, but it is just something good to probably grab in that first pack. Moving on to the second pack, nothing really, yet again, popping off as something super crazy. This is another soldier that does cost 1 mana. It does have protection from multicolored cards, and if your opponent plays non-basic lands, you gain 1 life. It's not a bad card, but it's not anything like super, like, really good. Typically, in this spot, you probably want to find cards that are probably a little bit on the better side. This is something that's also pretty decent. It costs 1 less for each creature card in our graveyard. We get to exile target creature or planeswalker. Removal is always very key, so that's something we could look for. You typically want to have maybe like 4 to 5 removal spells. It's definitely kind of hard. Is one of those things. Sometimes people recommend like up to 7, but probably drafting against some AI, it's not going to be the easiest thing to get there. But I do think maybe we actually go with this card, just because it's probably one of the better cards there. This card is just an enchantment that returns target permanent we control to its owner's hands. If it has Unearth, instead exile it, then return that card to the owner's hand. Activate only during your turn. Doesn't seem that great. This Druid is a thing that makes it become a 4/4 artifact creature. This will allow artifacts to cost less. I already kind of went over that card as a soldier. This one is return artifact or creature card mana value 3 or less to the battlefield. If it's a creature, enters the battlefield with additional +1/+1 counter. We have a blue soldier that just is a 2/1 for 2. Can gain flying to end a turn. But yeah, I think I'm just going to take the removal, because I do think it's going to be a little hard to get removal here, because that's like a premium card the AI may think and probably take from us. Moving on to the next pack here. Maybe the removal wasn't the play, as we did get like the nice tactician here for soldiers, which actually works very well with our land, and we're kind of seeing some soldiers pop up here in these additional packs. So maybe this was not the best play, but it was probably at the time probably the best card, because we weren't really decided. But I do think I'm going to take this, because now we have 2 synergies overall. Removal wise, this is probably really good if we decide to go white. This talisman's not anything special. It is just a mana rock that allows us to gain a life, but it does cost 3, so it's not like the most use for our mana. But I do think if we're gonna maybe then go blue-white, taking the white removal spell is probably really good. We'll still keep this card here, just as a card that's going to help us. Going here, we got another tactician, which is definitely very good. We have a rare here, the Cloud Key. This is a unique artifact that, as it enters the battlefield, we can choose an artifact, creature, enchantment, instant, or sorcery, make that spell cost 1 less. Definitely not a bad card, but I do think having a second one of these is probably much better, just because allowing us to have additional ways of just pumping the team is going to be really good. And I do think that's a card that would eventually be taken by the AI, and we would not see it again. We have Repair and Recharge, 5 mana, return target artifact, enchantment, or planeswalker from the graveyard to the battlefield, create a tap Power Stone token. We're not really doing that much stuff in that regard. We could take the 2/5 guy that can get +1 -1 until end of turn for 4 mana. Not the best. This card's pretty good. It's a 2 mana, 1/2 with flying, then can buff our team for 5 mana. I think that's solid. The Remorse is just still going to sit there probably until we get done with this pack. Moving on to here, card draw is definitely really good. This is a 3 mana instant that we can draw a card and gain life equal to the number of cards in our hands, so that could come in clutch depending on what kind of matchups we go against. As for soldiers, we do have another one of those agents, which is not really the greatest, but I do think taking the Union's probably really good. Back to this pack. Yet again, I think this soldier's probably going to be the play. Having a second ambusher, 2 mana, 1/2 flyer is always very good evasive. Is another thing to look for. Ways to make it hard for your opponent to block things is always a challenge in Limited. I think this Human Cleric Soldier's solid. It's a 3 mana 1/4. If it gets buffed, becomes bigger and bigger. Also has lifelink, so that could really gunk up the ground game. And it is also a soldier, so it fits very well into archetype. This got passed around. It's a 1 mana play. I mean, it's not a bad card. It's not a great card, but it is something we could take. There's not many non-land permanents, so it's not going to get that much effect. Going into this pack, maybe just take like this enchantment. Maybe enchantments are big. It destroys artifacts, I believe, too. It's probably not something we're going to play just because it's going to take a slot and it's kind of awkward, but it is something we could think about. We have a 1 mana kind of combat trick that could come in clutch, just because I'm not sure how easy it is going to be to remove things. This is an instant spell that bounces something, which is not bad. Kind of, gunk up, make your opponent have to replay something's always a problem. But for the most part, we are still really on the blue. We're really on mono white at the moment. This card's also unique in the sense that it's like a combat trick. It has flash speed, and it stays on the creature, so that enchanted creature would get +1/+0 first strike when it initially is played, but then we'll still gain that buff of +1/+0. So I think it's a toss-up between these two. I think the combat trick is better, just because it can catch our opponent off guard. Looking at these cards, the Assembly Worker, our Power Plant Worker, it's all right. It's a big card, but it's not really anything special. This card's probably solid. It's another 1 mana play that we can sacrifice to draw a card and unearth it, maybe to do it again. So just another 1 mana play is always solid. Here we have an option between 2 cards. None of them are really anything special. We'll take the Artifact just because it is an older card and we probably won't play it. But I am just going to clean this up real quick before we go into the next pack. But in this next pack, I do think we've opened some nice cards for our deck. This being one of them, it's another 1 mana play that whenever it attacks, another creature we control gets +1/+1 to end a turn. Definitely very good. We have Prison Sentence as well as another kind of removal type spell, as it is a card that pretty much doesn't allow our opponent to attack our block. And we also get the Scry 2, which is definitely very solid. But I still think we can probably hold out on taking a card like this, but we'll take the Soldier. Everything else is kind of, it's all right, but one of these cards will probably get passed around to us. So we'll probably see maybe one of these cards back in the pack when it gets passed around. So we'll take this card as another 1-drop. Looking at this pack, nothing really is screaming to me as something that's going to be really good. This is whenever equipped creature attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 to end a turn for each other creature I control. That could be really big, as it is something that we could get a decent sized board and just attack with big things over and over again, make it hard for them to deal with. This is a 2-mana 2/2 Human Soldier of Vigilance. Vigilance is solid when it comes to attacking because it attacks and then can still stay back on defense. Outside of that, we have our counter spell, which we could definitely possibly take, but I don't think taking counter spells this early is very strong. Down here, nothing really special jumps out. We're not playing green, so these cards really aren't playable. This is just a defender. We could control an island, so it could be something that could come in clutch, but it's not going to get boosted by our soldier synergy. These are red cards, not really playing red, so getting a soldier that's in red, it's not going to be good for us just because I don't know if Splash and Red is going to be a way we want to go. Other than that, I would say it's probably a toss-up between these two. Possibly taking the Sigil of Valor could be powerful. The one thing that we could do is we could attack in the air with our creatures. But I think I'm going to take the Vanguard just because having creatures is definitely very good in our archetype. And it may be hard to come across them later in this whole draft. Moving into the next pack. Nothing's super crazy here. This is counter target artifact or enchantment spell. If it was counter this way, exile it, or counter activate or triggered ability. Not really good for draft. We could take a third of these guys, which could be interesting. We could take 1/4 with lifelink. Not bad there. We have a Dawnblade, but I don't think that's something that's we're going to prioritize over everything. Other than that, we have Battery Bearer 3/4. Not really in our color. So I think it's a toss up between these two. Having an additional one of these is good, but it's not anything super impressive. So I think having the 1/4, just have another way to gunk up the ground game is going to be pretty solid. Vanguard's solid. This is a draw card, essentially. It's Mishra's Bauble. It's a very good card in other archetypes. I'm not sure how good it's in limited, but it's still a free look at top card of player's library and then draw a card at the beginning of next turn's upkeep. It's not bad, but it's not great. This one is just a rare. We could take the rare if we're not really excited about anything else. We have Air Marshal here. It's a 2-mana 2/1. But I think taking the 2-mana 2/2 of Vigilance is going to be very good. We're not going to play a ton of artifacts, but it is something that could come up if we need to. But still having the overall ability to just have a 2-mana play is solid. We have a 6-mana create 4 soldier artifact creature tokens. Kind of expensive, but not bad. We have another one of these Union of the Third Paths, just a way to just draw some cards, gain some light based on how many cards in our hand. Enchant creature, enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 if you do tap enchanted creature. That could become very good. It's another way of kind of like, not removal, but it's a way to kind of take something out of the game unless your opponent has a way to deal with it. And we can do it immediately on a creature that's already tapped, or we can pay 4 mana and then do it by ourselves. So I do think that's going to be the play. Just be having ways to deal with what's on the board is going to be very, very helpful. I do think... Are we back to... I think we have a couple more picks until we're back to our pack. This looks very similar to the pack we initially opened. We have Curate, which is Surveil 2, and then draw a card. So we can look at top 2, put any in our graveyard, and draw either a blind card or draw one of the cards we didn't surveil. We got another Mimic. Whenever creature of power equal to its toughness enters the battlefield, we can pay 1. We can draw a card. It's all right. But it's not really anything impressive. We have a 5 mana 2/5, put target artifact, instant, or sorcery card from graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. I don't know how heavy we're going to be playing like spells like that, so I don't know how effective this card will be, but it is a 2/5, which could go with the ground game overall. Or we can just take another 3 mana 1/4 lifelinker. Sure, I mean that's kind of a lot, but it is something we could do and just kind of just try to slowly draw into one of our tacticians and just kind of overpower that way. We have a human wizard. We have machine over matter. Just another bounce spell. This is another one of those equipments. We have Swiftfoot Boots, which we can give our creature hexproof and haste, which could be pretty decent. It does cost 1 to equip and 2 to play out, which is on the good side. We have Big Old Demolisher. That could be like a big play, but I don't think it really fits with our shell of what we're trying to do. So I think I'm going to take the boots just because I do think it's a better overall equipment than this one, even though this one does equip for 1 and makes it +2/+0. But this gives a hexproof and haste, so we can immediately attack in if that's the play. Is this our pack? Or are we one more away from our pack? I don't remember these cards, so that's why I'm kind of asking myself. We have a 3 mana sorcery. We get to look at top 5 cards of our library. We put any number of artifact cards among them in our hand and put the rest in the bottom of our library in any order. We're playing some artifacts, but I don't know if that's something we're going to be playing a ton of that I do think we'll be able to take full effects of. Equipment, +1/+0 in menace. Whenever creature enters the battlefield from a graveyard, you may attach it. We have a Flash Flyer. That's 4 mana. It's a bird. When it enters the battlefield, create a tap Power Stone token. Could be an interesting play. Shoot down. This is a red card that produces soldiers. So I think we take the bird or this card. It doesn't untap during your untap step, and you tap 3, untap it. It's either 6 mana 6/6 or a 9 mana 9/9. But I think the bird's going to be the play, just because I think it's overall better. I feel like I didn't see my pack, or I didn't notice that the local metacodon was in our initial pack, but I do feel like we should see our pack that we initially have. But looking at this pack, nothing really stands out of being like good for us. We have target not only permanent, puts it on top or bottom, scry 2 for 5 mana, which is kind of expensive. We can make a permanent become an artifact in addition to its other types. We can counter target artifact or creature spell unless its controller pays 4. We can give creature +1/+0 and flying. And then the other cards are kind of, they're okay, but they're not great. Like this is a 2 mana soldier that's a 3/1 with ward. I don't know if I'm going to splash a third color. I don't think that's really the play. This is a wizard. This card is very narrow, I would say. It's not a pure counter spell because it's limited to artifacts and creatures, which could be big. I guess we take the desynchronize because maybe desynchronizing something is going to be a bigger play. This looks like our pack we initially opened, just looking at it. I remember the Urza's rebuff and whatnot. But looking at the pack, I think the rebuff is where it's at. We got the Unearth here. It's a 5 mana 4/4. When it leaves the battlefield, we gain 3 life or 2 life. Or we can play the Bulwark as a defender and has Surveil for 2, but it becomes a 3/3 if we have an island. Both those are definitely playable, but neither of them are a wall. And this is just a way to slow the game down, counter things. But I feel like we want to be aggressive. So I think either having one of these two are probably pretty good. I guess we take the Unearther just because we could replay it, get it out for free, and then do whatever we need to. This pack, nothing really stands out as being something we want to play. So we'll just take one of the uncommons here. We're not really hate drafting. It's not like we're cutting someone off from getting a good card. I guess we take the Air Marshal. That's a solid soldier to have. We'll take the Third Path. Another draw card. We'll take the Wizard. as it got passed to us, and we'll take the other wizard. And we'll just kind of go from there. All right, so pack 3, pick 1, or pass him back the other way. Looking at the top here, we have Mightstone, Weakstone. We don't have Urza Planeswalker, but the Mightstone, Weakstone is not bad in the sense that we can draw 2 cards, give a creature -5/-5, and it produces 2 mana that can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. That's kind of unfortunate part about it, but it is not bad as a removal card and a draw card. We have a Combat Thresher. That's a 3/3 for 7 with double strike, and enters the battlefield, draws a card, or we can pay 3 mana, get a 1/1 with double strike, and it draws a card. Another one of these Foundry Inspectors, Human Artificer. Target creature gains hexproof and indestructible and turns scry 1. Not bad. We have another one of these Prison Sentences. I think we take the Mightstone, Weakstone. I think it's slightly better because this is it put creatures still on the battlefield, but doesn't technically remove it. I do think taking the rare is probably the play there, even though it is a little bit expensive. It does look like we got past one of these. Outside of that, everything else is not really in our colors. As battlefield, you may put a plain card or creature card mana value 3 or less among those cards milled. If you don't put a +1/+1 counter, so 3 mana flyer that could get something, mill cards and get something back. I think we take the Aura, just another way to kind of slow the game down in case our opponent has something big that we can't deal with immediately. We have Take Flight, enchant creatures +1/+0 and fly in. Whenever this creature attacks, draw a card. Not bad, not great. We could play Wing Commando. It's a 2/2 fly and prowess. That means it will get +1/+1 every time we cast a non-creature spell. Another Union of the Third Path. Probably don't need a third one. 2's probably more than good. Outside of that, nothing else is really a soldier, so I do think it's probably a toss-up between either this or this, but I do think we take the 3 mana creature in the air. It's definitely probably going to be better, just because it'll get better once we get more of our tacticians out and whatnot. We have a Spinning Power Stone as additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice, and create 2 Power Stone creature tokens. If that card's not really going to fit us, we're not really doing the Power Stone thing. We're not really playing that kind of deck. We could get another bird here, just because it's another flyer that will make it hard for our opponent to deal with. Draw 2 cards, discard a card, create 2 tap Power Stone, create a tap Power Stone token. It's not bad. It's not great. I think we take the bird. Everything else is kind of eh. Go here. This is a Shapeshifter. Shapeshifters. Well, it's not a changeling. It's a Shapeshifter. Until end of turn, it becomes a -1/-1 and of a choice: flying, vigilance, death touch, and haste. That could be really good. Just as another way to deal damage. We don't need probably another one of those since we already have 3. Target not only permanent, top or bottom. Don't need another third path. I think we take the Avenger just because that would become a nuisance for our opponent to deal with. Wow. A lot of cards we've already seen multiple times. This pack gives flying. It's a 2 mana flyer artifact that's not a flyer. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and then tap 2. It becomes a 1/1 creature until end of turn. So we'll just get +1/+1 based on how many non-creature spells you cast. Probably don't need more of this. The enchantment, I think, is good because it'll give us card advantage, and card advantage is always good. But once we kind of resolve everything, maybe we don't need it. This is a soldier that costs 1 mana with First Strike. First Strike's always great, and if we have any way of pumping it, it's going to be amazing. This is a 2/5. Could be not bad. Everything else is kind of eh. Demolition Field's not a bad card here, but I don't know if I'm really going to be targeting lands. I think there's Mishra's Foundry, but the odds of someone having a Mishra's Foundry and us needing a Demolition Field is probably very slim. Lantern's not bad because we can tap it and sacrifice it to draw a card. That's probably a good pick. I think overall the Soldier's it's all right, but it's not great. It does become a big body once we get into the later game if we can resolve a Tactician or 2. And then we can, tap 2 and switch its power and toughness a little bit multiple times. But I think the Lantern is probably pretty good. Where are we at with creatures? 21. 21's actually kind of a lot. We do have to make some cuts because we still have to add lands, so we're at 32 total cards in our main deck, and we'll have to figure out what we want to keep and what we don't. So I do think taking this is probably better just because even if we don't use it, we still drafted it. enchant artifacts. So if we do have power stones, that's not bad. Enchanted artifact enters the battlefield. We draw a card. Enchanted artifact is a creature with base power 4. So we can turn our Power Stone tokens into a 4/4. Counter spell's all right. I don't think it's great. So we'll take that card. Probably won't play that card, but it's just something that we take. Bounce spell. Everything else is kind of not in our colors. This is not really good for us, so we'll take the bounce spell. Another take flight's probably not the play. Enters battlefield, create tap Power Stone token. 4 mana for 2/3 though. That's not really that good. Another take flight's probably not what we need, but might as well grab it, and then we can always cut one. We'll take the split in Power Stone, probably throw it there. We're not really doing that. I guess we'll take the medic. I guess we'll take another medic. By the way, we can play over, because it's a draft, you can have more than just 4 of them. If it wasn't a draft, we can only play 4, but since it is what it is, that is kind of how this works out. And then we'll kind of see what we got. We got some vault progress. If you're not sure what the vault is, it's kind of one of those things that when you get additional copies of cards you already own 4 copies of, you'll get X amount of percent of based on what kind of rarity it is, besides rares and mythics, because those cards, once you have 4 of them, eventually turn into like currency. So that is kind of how that works. But it's an interesting mechanic that's good for uncommons and commons. If you ever wonder whatever happens to your additional uncommons and uncommons, that's how that kind of works. So looking at our deck, it does need some adjustments. Like I said, we are very heavy on certain cards that we probably don't need the copies we added. Not everything is probably playable for the most part. That's good. That's good. Discipline's fine as a combat trick. The one thing I want to do real quick is kind of take a quick look at what kind of like removal or interaction we have with the board. This is kind of removal. Thought I had. I guess the desynchronized was the card I was thinking of 5 mana. Prison Sentence is kind of removal. This is a bounce spell. This is kind of removal. And lay down arms. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that kind of interact with what's going on the board. So I do think that's not a bad area to start with. When it comes to this, though, I don't think we need probably the 5 copies of the medic. So we'll probably throw a couple of them, probably like 2, because we don't want to gunk up our like 3-drop slot. I don't think we need the Soul Guide Lantern. Combat Courier is fine. And Survivor's fine. It's not bad. Like these can be kind of like combat tricks, and just having the additional way of keeping stuff around is not bad. I don't think we need the boots. I think the boots are kind of aggressive. Don't think we need that card. That card's kind of awkward. This card, don't think we need. It's not really a card that works with our deck. We're going to zoom out real quick just to get a better idea of what we have in our technically sideboard if we want to make changes at any point. Do I need that many birds is the real question. Like, the bird's good, but it's not, like, great. Also, I guess I didn't remove. I already had 2 of them. I don't know what happened there. We don't need the wizard. We're not really tapping 7 to draw a card. Are these going to be good is the question. Do we want to pay 3 mana to draw a single card and gain a chunk of life? Or would we rather just put pressure on our opponent and do other things? I think we can cut one of those take flights. We can definitely cut that. So we have to make 4 more cuts. I think having this is perfectly fine because it is one of those things that we could give it flying, vigilance, death touch, or haste, depending on what we need to do. It doesn't stay a 5/5, but it will be a 4/4 at least, and we can give it whatever we need based on whatever the board state is. Discipline, it's all right. Maybe that's a cut. Maybe the courier's a cut because we want to do other things. So we'll slim down our 1-drops. Ambusher's fine. Vanguard's fine. That's perfectly good because I thought it gave itself flying, but it gives target soldier we control flying, so that's even better. There are a few soldiers that we have. I mean, I could cut the birds and kind of, we have the 6-drop, and then this is where we kind of go, and this is our meat of the deck. I mean, there is a thing where talking about this Might Stone Weak Stone is not the best, but I do think just initially getting that initial ability of whatever based on the board state of the first two is going to be really big for us. So I do think that's why I kind of keep it. There is a possibility that that could become one of the cuts. We could also, in theory, cut this card as it's a very expensive card to cast, and then go down to 5 cards I can deal with, and maybe our board state will just kind of put pressure on our opponent that way. There's also a possibility we could just cut Cake Flight. It's tough. I think the third paths are probably the cut. I do think we have other ways of dealing with what we got going on here. We have ways of drawing some cards. Still in the deck. I mean, it's not as many. It's actually very few now thinking about it, but I do think it's not bad. But I think this is definitely not a bad list to start with. Like I said, this is an event where we just got to play 3 games, and how we do is how we do. We can finish the event up if that's after I'm done with the 3. So we're going to go into our first game and kind of see how this draft deck does. Our opponent's going to go first. Our hand's all right. We have some plays. We have our colors, so we're good there. I don't think we're very heavy in double colors, so having a blue in our hands definitely very solid. All right. Ooh, nice. We'll play white. We drawing the Tactician's very good here. What does this do? Tap an untapped artifact creature you control. Add 1 mana of any color. It's not bad. Our opponent's going to attack, which is not a big deal. The one thing I'm worried about is going to be, are we going to draw a 4th land? Like, if we draw the 4th land, we're good, because our board becomes that much better. I also may not block here, just because I don't want to have a combat trick done to me. Sure. All right, drew the 4th land. We're setting up for greatness. We'll play our Lifelinker. And no attacks. And now we can then follow that up next turn with playing like the Tactician. We can also play like Desynchronize. We have definitely a lot of plays here. This will add mana to their mana pool, so they will have an additional mana. Baloth. They gain 4 life. That's also solid. But I think we just played the Tactician, and we say go. We're just going to sit back. We block the Baloth very well. And if we draw the 5th land, we can get rid of the Baloth and have a decent attack next turn, depending on what they do here. That is another card we have to deal with. If we let that get out of control, it's GG's for us. So I think that is probably the play. Well, -5/-5 there before they can get any tokens. I actually will make the attack. If they want to block, they can block, but I will get the free attack in as they choose not to. And I think the Waitstone could actually pay for that 3 there. So that is a possibility as well. Sure. They're unlocking the combo. We'll play another one of these. And what happens with... Which one do I want to get rid of? That one? Alright, it doesn't do what I think it does. I will autopay. Nope, not there. We'll swing. If they want to block it, that's fine. I'll gain some life. I'll kill their mana ramper as lifelink. Nice. Yeah, we're definitely in a good position here, unless they have some like really crazy top decks. Overall, not bad. End turn. Now, here's the thing. Like, we could see them sink mana into this. Other than that, not really sure. I guess they're debating on what they want to do here. Whatever attacks. Sure. We'll start here. We'll play a bird. That's flying. I think we just fly in the air. And we'll just play this card. And yes, we have a lot of cards on the ground that can gain us a bunch of life. And we're just kind of waiting for our opponent to see if they make like a very aggressive play. Because there is a possibility that they're going to want to swing big here. And then tapping creatures down to do all this stuff is very good for us. Because we'll just slowly pick away. This is just ward 4 when it dies at 8 colorless mana. Okay. That's fine. It did its thing. They want to use removal on it, that's perfectly fine. Let's see where they put it. Sure. So it's an A4. All right, so they don't have any cards in hand, so we'll just chump here. And we'll do it that way. We have more than enough toughness. We'll gain some life out of it. They kill a 3/3, but it's not a big deal. It's ward 4. And I think I have enough to tap this. If they want to sink mana into that, that's perfectly fine. I'll take 10. Wait, did I miss the turn where I was supposed to bounce something? Oops. Oops. I guess I missed that step. That was my bad. So if I lose this game, it's because of me. I guess this is fine. We can now do this. We'll do this. We'll scry 2 again. Probably don't need that. And we just sit back. Sure. And I think we'll give this flying. And now we'll attack in the air. And we draw a card. And we'll play this. And now it's a 2/2 first striker. So we're not in a bad spot here. It could be worse. I guess our opponent does have all the answers for flying, which is very surprising. And they don't really have good attacks overall. Like, they could attack in with their 8/8 because it's basically free. But other than that, the rest of their board's kind of not good to attack. Now, the downside here is if they attack him with their 8/8 and we want to try to kill their 8/8, we'd have to really throw everything in front of it because we have 4, 7, 9. So that is the one thing we could do. I think we're going to block because what I'll do here is I'll scry because I don't think I know what's on top of my library. And then I just held the priority there just because I wasn't sure if we could do anything with that. So we're going to scry now. We'll exile it. Not sure what our opponent could have there. That card's not bad. We have 5 planes. This is an 8/8 though. We'll draw. Could get rid of their 4/4. Can't really deal with that. That is the problem, dealing with their big creature. So maybe we'll just give him a reason to maybe we have to chump next turn. Other than that, like I said, they have no good attacks. I think blocking with the lifelinker is probably our best play, though we are definitely in a very heavy top deck mode. And that is definitely not the top deck. So I think I lost there because, one, I missed the click. I mean, I'm not saying it was make the whole difference overall, but missing that click, you know, made me take 8 additional damage I probably shouldn't have. So we definitely be at different life point totals. So, I mean, at this point, I'm just kind of holding out for hopefully some sort of way to deal with what's going on, what our opponent's doing. Not sure what our opponent's holding priority there, so... All right. We go first. Hand's fine. We have 2 paratroopers. We have a tactician and a lay down arms. Lay down arms is probably not great here, but it's still a good card to have, as it will get better later as we go. 2 tacticians are definitely good. So I guess our opponent's going first, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, we're going first. Sweet. We'll play planes and say go. And I'm probably just going to cast a paratrooper on my turn. I don't think I need to flash it on our opponent and surprise them. As I don't think I'm going to block or do anything crazy in the air. All right, looks like they're playing a green deck. We're just going to play a paratrooper. Looks like they're playing some sort of green-white deck. All right. That's perfectly fine. We will play this. We will attack in for 1. We will then play our medic. And we'll pass. So it looks like our opponent did draft this card. It's not a bad card. It is something to have that can get pumped up over the course of the game. So it is something decent to invest into. If we get a 4th land, next turn is going to be pretty solid for us, as we're going to be able to play our 1 soldier. And then kind of be able to attack him pretty well. Because we'll attack him for 4, gain 2, so even their attack in for 2 is not going to be very strong. And then we still have a 3/4 blocker. And then if we can draw another land, we could also attack in pretty aggressively, depending on what their board is, because we could kind of pump the team. I think I'm just gonna make it so that they can't actually block. We'll keep the planes. Keeping a land of some sort is solid. They're down to 8. We'll play a 2/2 first striker. All they have really right now is basically that flyer artifact. That's kind of a unique artifact because it's not a creature, but the artifact's still levitating as if it had flying. That's fine. And I think we just swing in because I think we still win regardless of if they block, unless they have some sort of crazy combat trick. We'll see how they block here. They probably have to block the 3/4 is my guess, and then it's still 9 damage around it. I mean, there's also a possibility I could just gotten rid of that. Well, actually, I don't have enough planes, so I couldn't have gotten rid of it. Probably not the play. This would have been the better play, just because it would have debuffed my team +1/+1 after it died. And I had no way of really saving it. The first striker is not good because Death Touch and First Strike, if I'm able to pump it, gets around the Death Touch. We go first. Hand's solid. We have a play. We have some lands. We can do stuff. We have various ways of getting some additional card draw. So I think our overall that misplay in our first game probably is kind of what did us there. Maybe we still had a chance if we didn't do that misplay. It would have given us like a few more turns to maybe find an answer for what they did. Our opponent mulligans, solid for us. Always good when our opponent mulligans. Mulligans again, going down to 5. Not the best. I'm guessing they're playing some crazy deck and they're not drawing lands, or they're just not drawing lands for the colors they're playing. Who really knows is the question. I mean, if the deck has like a solid like 1, 2, 3 play and you're trying to draw that, I do think sometimes that's very good in limited, just because if you're able to kind of go off quickly, it's always hard to catch up in limited because you have to find answers and there's not as many as there would be constructed. Playing something blue-white. Or something white. I'm just going to cast in my Paratrooper. Yet again, I'm not one of those people. I think I have to surprise my opponent that I'm playing a Paratrooper of all things. They have some sort of play. It's perfectly fine. We'll just attack in for our 1. If they have removal, they have removal, I guess. Alright. And I'll end my turn. It's possible they have like the soldiers that come in and it creates a token. The 2 mana. I'm just trying to think of like what kind of other play they could have that's holding up priority. This land I think takes 3 mana, so it's not like that's holding priority. So alright, we're passing through. So maybe it's a card that buffs something that they can do at instant speed, and since I have a creature on the battlefield, it's kind of doing that instant speed. Alright. Still love the card, whatever it is. I guess we'll play this. Still have whatever the card is. Kind of holding off. Kind of keeping it close to the chest on whatever it is. And I do think playing the Wing Commando is pretty solid next turn. Getting another flyer that also has prowess. I'm not going to play either of these spells. Well, I can't play this, but I'm not going to play that to follow it up. Alright, so maybe our opponent is having issues with drawing cards of a particular color. But I do think filling the board up with a bunch of dudes is going to be good for us. Because next turn we could have a pretty decent attack. I mean, I do think it's lethal if they don't play a physical creature on the battlefield or deal with our board, so there is that. And they have to play multiple creatures because I can bounce one of them. So we'll see what they do here with all this mana. My guess is it's some sort of artifact, is now that they got to play. But I don't know what they could be actually trying to get at. There's a battlefield, 2 colors spent. 3, 7. Yeah, it's game. You play this. Nope, not that. Play this. Bounce that. Prowess. And that's, I believe, Xaxes. All right, our opponent's going to go first. Our hand's still solid. We have some plays. We have a turn 1 play, so we'll kind of wait and see what our opponent does. We now have a turn 2 play. So now the only thing we need to draw is the Tactician, because that will kind of unlock our deck. 2/2 is very solid. We'll just pass. Now we'll kind of wait and see what our opponent's doing. Maybe also give the illusion that we could have a combat trick. All right, our opponent's not scared. So if they kill it, they kill it. If not, we'll just flash in our creature. What does this do? Put 2 counters on it for 7 mana. It's kind of expensive. We'll play another white mana. And there is a little bit of stick. So if they surprise us, they surprise us. But I think we'll just cast our Medic here. And that kind of gunks up the battlefield on the ground, and they can't really get around it. Sure. I think this is where we actually play this. And we're going to pay the additional 3. And we'll tap it. And then we'll just hack in like this. They can block the 1/4, but we'll still gain a life out of it regardless. And we're up to 19. And then next turn, we could pretty much turn on our ambush paratrooper, because we'll have the 5 mana. So there is that. All right. That's fine. So they drew a lot of Death Touchers, which is no big deal for us. Now, if we can draw another answer for it, that'd be pretty good. But I do think we'll just kind of sit back. There's no need to attack into a Death Toucher, because that's just free damage to us. Or that's going to be a free block for them, because they'll just kill whatever they block with. And worst case scenario, we just flash in our bird, depending on how they block. Because there's a possibility they may want to go all in on this and pump it. And they have a lot of those. They definitely have a lot of those spiders. So good on them for drawing that card. Or getting that card, I should say. So I guess we'll just cast stuff on the ground and gunk up our battlefields. And we'll just pass. We have no need to attack into 2/3s. We saw very solid blocks on the ground, so there is that. That's fine. It's kind of surprising they did that. I guess the 3/3 is not as threatening. Getting rid of a spider is good here. What does this do? At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 3 or more creature cards in your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on it. How many creatures? Okay, they just have that. I think it's the play on one of the spiders. Just making it not able to block. We'll get a scry out of it. We'll keep the removal on top. And we'll just hold back again. I mean, I'm under no pressure to really be aggressive just yet. I can block very well on the board. They can attack him for 2 if they get aggressive. We can lay down arms to this because I have 3 planes. Or it's 4. Never mind. Well, that's not what I thought I was gonna do. Do they block? Is the question. Can't block. Thank you. And if that was going to be their long strategy, we'll get rid of it. Because now I would assume that's what they were going to invest their mana into. And now they're not. Sure. Another one? Wow. Crazy. Crazy that they were able to draw multiple of the same... That's 4 spiders? Right, 1, 2, 3. We'll get another Power Stone token and another bird. And no, that's not the same bird. You put the other one on the bottom. It's still there. Now they can just destroy a permanent if they want to. If they want to. They don't have to. Sure. We are pretty much at a stalemate. Until I can deal with the Recluse. Just a solid stalemate. No, would they spend cost 7? Oh, so they can't actually do it this turn. So I do think this is a turn we attack with the rock and see if they block. Doesn't do much. If you want to put my bird back on the bottom, I'm perfectly happy with that. I'll take more birds. I'll play my soldier. And I will end turn. I mean, I think they're looking at possibly removing that. Sure. And that's their whole turn, so not much else going on there. And now we turn it into high gear. This. Yeah, this is all going. And we'll bump this. And we'll end turn. So that was very good for us. They don't have any way to remove it immediately. I mean, a 10-10's nothing to, like, really be worried about. $13. $2. So they're going to block one of these if they did block. $4. Probably block the lifelinker. So we're just going to pass. Don't have a good attack here. And they have to tap their 10-10, which they may do. And if that's the case, then they're kind of open. I'll take 10. Sure. We'll hold back. End turn. They may swing all out, which is good for us. They may just attack with their 10-10. So we'll make them choose. We'll get a Scry 2. We'll fix the top cards of our library. Yeah, I don't think those are it. As much as I would want those, I'd probably want something to maybe deal with what's going on there. And we'll skip. So we knew what their top card was. And I think we still have very good blocks here, because they don't really have any way... Like, we could kill their 10-10 if they decide to swing just with their 10-10. They may be pressured into swing with everything. If we block here with a 2-5... I'm just thinking real quick. If 6... I have a card in hand. I think I'm just going to block here. That will block 2 of it. Now we'll get rid of the 2-5. It will absorb 5, we'll gain 2, and we take 5. And we'll go up to 6. And then I think these will get pumped overall. All right, so these have vigilance, which is good. This has first strike, 2-3. So I do think this is when we make this attack. And I do think this will get triggers. So those are 4-3s. I think we swing with everything. Yeah, we'll swing with this as well, because it will get first strike. So blocking with it with the Death Toucher does no effect. They'll do that. Sure. So it's very surprising that they want to do our cards, because it doesn't shuffle our library. And I'm also not dead if they decide to swing all out. Because these can easily double block. That will be 7 if I block there. This will be exactly 6. I have to double block here. I need the draw 2, as much as the 5-5 is probably really good. I mean, I'm pretty much dead. Jeez. Okay. Just swing, opponent. I guess that's what they were thinking about. All right, so this one's possibly for all the marbles. Hand's fine. The Mightstone Weakstone has been alright. It's not a great play, but it's there. We'll just play an island, or play a plains, I should say. Island. I was looking at the island, but I guess I played the other land, but neither didn't really matter. Alright, are they going to get something back is the question. They are not. Which I think is good, because I think they can only get lands back. And we'll just play our 2-1. Also, I guess green-black is a very good archetype, because that's a lot of green-black decks I've seen so far. Sure. No! My removal! How am I ever going to survive? My bounce spell. I'm not going to block. That's a smart play. No blocks. I mean, they still have a play, because something's holding priority there. We'll just play our lifelinker, and we're going to pass. There's no point in attacking into a 1-1 rat. That will give something -1/-1. And we'll block the 2/2 if they attack with the 2/2. We'll gain some life. Not the play I would think they would do. But alright. When it dies, target creature I don't control gets -1/-1. Or they don't control, I should say, not me. I'm not the one. I guess we'll just continue filling the board up, and we'll just pass. I'm waiting for their big card. I mean, I could have tapped down their 1/1 rat, but I don't think that's actually the play. The Baloth is actually a solid play to tap down permanently. I could also wait stone it next turn. So maybe we still wait. We'll pump the team. Go squad. Now their rat doesn't do anything, so we were rewarded for not just hastily tapping the vermin down and spending 4 mana. 3/5. Not very good against our board. Their board doesn't do much against us. I guess we can get rid of that. I don't think the Baloth is really a problem, per se. I might as well get rid of this before they can do some weird trick to it. Right? And no attacks. We don't need to. Sure. And they cast another one. So they have a lot of those 10/10s, which is not great. But I guess we make them not be able to do anything with said 10/10. Yeah, no attacks yet. Maybe next turn we'll start attacking. All right. Comes in a battlefield untapped. They could have a sack outlet for something. They're going to look for a card. Sure. Maybe removal. I'm not sure exactly what they'll be looking for, but Diabolic Intent's a play you could, I guess, do unlimited. And I do think next turn we just attack in with like our 3/4 Lord or something like that in the air. Like nothing super crazy. Depending on what we draw, we still keep Desynchronize available just in case. So, not really sure what our opponent could be really searching for here. Like, what is their big play that you would search your library for, sacrifice a creature in the process? Maybe a way to just sacrifice the Rust Goliath? I'm not sure. Prototype Death Touch. All right. That card's very good. We'll just give it flying. We'll start pecking away for some damage. I don't think there's anything in green or black that will be like, hey, I'm going to do said thing. Exile top 3 cards of your library face down. Exile top 3 cards of your another face down. Look at those cards in each pile, then turn. Sure. Our opponent's got all the bangers, I guess. So what happens? Look at those each pile, then turn a pile of your choice face up. An opponent chooses one of those piles. Put that pile in your hand, the rest, and the other in your graveyard. So we'll put these in your hand. You can have lands, and I guess you don't get any cards. I guess lands are what they needed. Okay. I feel like a part of me is like, you get rid of the Death Toucher, but also the Baloth. Baloth. I mean, the Vigilance is fine. Three mana, still have 4 mana open. I'll just sit back. I wonder what our opponent's doing here. I'm not really sure. I think they misread their card. Sure. Can they give it reach? They can give it flying. How would they feel if they had to do that again? I don't actually want neither now. Another lifelinker is fine. All right, I guess I will put the gas on a little bit, because we'll be here forever. Opponent, you want to block. Sure. That's fine. Good. Like, I have enough to, like, put pressure in the air and pump the guy. Oh, first strike is amazing here. I think it's just keep on jamming and make our opponent make a decision. Make that into a 4. Like, they're going to have to make some really tough choices here. I mean, they could just block with the 5/5 on the 2/5, give it Death Touch. But then they take a whole chunk of damage. Opponent, you should have gave something Death Touch. I mean, I guess you could give something -1/-1. But sure. They could have just gave it Death Touch, though. And it would killed it anyway, and they could have maybe targeted something else. Like, I'm not worried about dying. Can they give it lifelink? No. So they can't give their guy lifelink, but they can do a bunch of other things. Sure. They're tapped out, though. I feel like that's a small problem. So I have 4, 7, 8, 10, 11. It doesn't really matter. I'm out of mana, but all those while flying. You're tapped out. Sure. You get a block. Doesn't have flying. And I think I seal the deal next turn. Just because, unless they can gain a bunch of health. Oh, they got a flyer. I still think I have enough flyers. Sure. Still has flying. Awesome. Enters tapped. And I can just do the same thing. They can block 2 of them, still take 2. If I do that... I think that's fine. And I guess it doesn't really matter. I guess we'll just spread the wealth around. Opponent, I know you can make it have flying. Flying. Nice. Sweet. And GG's. They get a trigger. They get a rat. And they mill. At this point, I think my opponent's just for giggles at this point. And GG's. Good game, us. We're on the play. We don't have actually anything to play other than bounce and let me kind of deal with your board state. I feel like I have faith we'll draw into it. Probably the worst mistake I could make, but We'll go with it. Ornithopter. Okay. That is a card they can play. Problem with Ornithopter, I would say, as much as it's a free card, it does have 0 toughness. So there is that with the issue. We're going to attack him for 2 and see if they want to block. It is just a 0-2. So that is kind of like it's a weird card, just in how it plays. Hopefully we draw a land. I just realized we need a land. It'd be solid. What if you didn't have a card on the battlefield and you didn't get to draw a card? Nice. We control a soldier. And you know what? We'll give our creature flying. And we'll draw a card. Synergy. What has Ornithopter got on me now? My flyer draws me cards and doesn't tap. Also, I'm not going to do anything with... Yeah, I know, it's a problem. Yep, it's an enchantment. Keeps it half flying. It's cool. Has vigilance. Sure. I mean, I could be mean and like... Opponent, that is not how that card works. I also make my attack free from now on. So I will get all of the triggers. We'll get a land for the turn, which is solid. And we'll just play a 1-2. Oh, oops. Missed the trigger, but it's not a big deal. We have air superiority. And they have a guy that's going to drain me slowly. I think this was a misplay by them playing that. All right. They got to draw a card, though. Which is good. Choose an artifact or a creature card. So you get my only creature. All right. So our opponent's got some spice. I will take 1 all day. I don't have any artifacts this time, so I will just go ahead and swing in for 3, get my free trigger. Nice. Damage. We'll play the Marshal. And we'll end turn. And then next turn, we have 2 creatures that then will attack in pretty aggressively. Flying Haste enters the battlefield. Put 1 target card from graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. All right. Thank you for giving me a card back. You don't attack. No blocks. I mean, that's kind of mean, but I guess that's the play. Decline. It's already tapped. Other soldiers we control get buffed. We'll just attack in the air for now. We'll draw a card. Nice. They're down to 5. And now they kind of have to deal with the board state. All right, we're equipping things. I guess their card has... our opponent's going to go first. Hand's okay. A little light on the white, but we got playables. We have a 2-drop. We have that. We also have a 1-drop. So far, so good. A 1/1 for 1 is always very solid. That's eventually going to get buffed. This attacks very well into that, so we can easily just go this. We can attack in for 1. They should not block. And then we play our 2-1. Now, the Mine Worker is a life gainer, and it looks like they may be trying to go for the whole Urza thing, so that's actually pretty awesome that they were able to kind of pull that off. They didn't, force an attack there, which is always interesting. Because sometimes if you think I'm not, like, you may want to be like, are they going to block? More than likely, I will not block the 2-1, so that's like missing out on a free 2 points of damage. We're not going to attack in with that because this will block it very well. And I do think the Tower Worker is going to be probably one of the things we want to like deal with, because them drawing that additional mana, if they can get the other piece, is going to be huge. They got another Tower Worker, another Sentinel. So they're going to play the Sentinel, which makes sense. We don't have any multicolored spells, so we're not worried there. They don't have any good attacks. And collectively, we could tap them down. And then they don't have the additional mana next turn. But I think we just play this. And we just sit back. We're not in any pressure to really progress the board state. Don't really have a reason to right now. I don't have any good attacks in the air just yet. They're going to gain a life, which is fine. But I kind of want to wait and see if they do have the pieces. And they do have the pieces, so their hand is definitely much better now, because now they can tap the Tower Worker to tap the Tower Worker. Now they're going to gain, I think, 3 mana. So they were able to assemble the combo, which is crazy. That's fine. Like, the one time that we actually had the pieces, we're going to get rid of this immediately, because that's going to become a problem over the course of the game. Because they're going to be able to put counters on it instead of giving it +2/+2. And still no good attacks just yet. And they're going to gain a chunk of life now. So now we kind of have to be the aggressor, or the game's going to get out of hand from us, because they're going to be able to gain a ton of life. What is this? Power and toughness equal to the number of cards in your hand. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. So they definitely have good cards. Do we have good attacks is the question. We can buff everything. By doing the beachhead, this all becomes like 2 power. Blocks very well. This becomes 3, 2 toughness though, so they can maybe chump block. This becomes a 2 power, doesn't really kill much, so they'll probably put 1/3s in front of the stuff they can't kill. That becomes a 3/3. Attacks very well. So we'll see how they block here. I think I'm just going to attack him with the 2/2. And I think I'm also going to attack in with this. And if they want to block, they can block. But I think it's very face up what I'm trying to do here. Sure. So that's fine. We're going to kill the assembly worker. We don't want to give him any extra mana. And then we're just going to beachhead and buff our soldiers. So their stuff's going to die. That's fine. Gaining some life is perfectly fine, but you just lost 2 of your pieces, and we still kept our board. I'm fine with that. Now, they have a card here that doesn't have any sort of benefit when they play more cards from their hand. So this Crawler is a very unique card in that stance. And 5 mana is kind of a lot. Now, from here, I have very good attacks because my cards will kill pretty much everything. So they may not block at all. Huh. Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna do that, I might as well invest in that attack. If they have a response, then they have a response, but I might as well attack my opponent for like 10 life and gain 2 life out of it. They may attack back, which makes sense. No blocks. Play a land. Kind of surprising they have not done much here to progress the board. Do they want to do anything? Because now they're going to start getting low, and this may warrant an attack or two. We'll pump. If they want a combat trick, that's fine. Nice. Why didn't they do that earlier? It was a scry. Might as well while we have the mana open, just in case they have some sort of other way to counter an activated ability. I don't think either of those are good, so we'll get rid of those. But our opponent's definitely out of, like, tricks. Sure, gain a life. Like, their crawler's not that good here because now it's only a 2-2. I'm not going to block it. I'm not really worried about my life total. The chances of them really having another one of these, it's possible. Not likely. So now they have ways to gunk up the board, so if they have more non-creature spells, that's actually good for them. But if they play their last card, then they lose their 1-1 here, which is kind of slowly draining me. They may have something to hold priority there. I'm not really sure. But I mean, we definitely do have a lot of land. Sure. Sure. So they have a way of buffing it? I mean, if they have another card to do something about it, they lose their creature in the process. This dies. So then you lose a you lose. That was like a 2-for-1 by us. And then we're just slowly putting pressure on them overall. Sure. They have no good attacks. They now have no way of dealing with our card. So we'll just keep on keeping on here. We're gonna actually give itself flying. And I still have mana open to actually do the other ability. Gain some life. They go down to 4. And we go up to 20. So we're still looking good. I'm not going to block. No blocks. I go down to 15. They go to 4. And GG's us. I mean, it was surprising they actually had a way to counter our activated ability of the Beachhead, but it still, delayed the inevitable, I think. All right, moving to 5 wins overall, so we're going to walk away with at least 650 gems, which is going to be huge. Going into game number, I guess if we have 5 wins, 2 losses, this is game number 8. And I'll be pretty happy if we finish at 5-3, I think, overall. Opponent goes first. Hand is on the slow side. But I think we keep, because we have the draw. And I don't think we're going to show off the beachhead just immediately. Just because that means we'd have to reveal a card in our hands, and I don't know if I want to just yet. We'll attack him for 1. I mean, they have this card. I haven't seen anyone actually actively use that card, but it's an interesting card. Sure. That is their turn 3 play, which makes me feel very comfortable about the game so far, because they haven't done anything to advance that card any further. Sure. Now it's a 4/4 or a 5/5. That's a pretty good play. I think we just do this. We'll give this the ability to fly. We'll gain 2 life, and we get to draw a card. So hopefully we can find an answer. But as they progress and play more spells, that card's definitely going to get out of hand. So I do think I have to figure out how to deal with it. Because that was not on my bingo card of seeing cards off the top of my library type thing. We'll pause. I don't think we need to do anything with the board. The Skystrike Officer would have been solid for our deck. We don't actually have that card. Sure. Now the question is, do they have a combat trick? I'm going to say yes, but I have to kind of deal with this board state. So we're going to flash in our bird. All right. And we'll just block here. We'll take 6, but there was not much else I could do there. Unfortunately, well, that's actually not bad. Though I don't have mana open to actually do anything with it. I think I have to draw first. I think I have to draw. Nice. Now that is a card that deals with that card. And I don't think they have double blue, but if they have something to deal with enchant the auras, then we are pretty much GG's here. I'm not sure if there's a lot that gives a hexproof, though, in white or blue. And I'm not going to pay the 3. Decline. And we'll end turn. Nice. So they have a way to kind of deal. This is a 1/2. They don't have enough soldiers, so we'll just take the damage. Go into 4. That's kind of huge. Then we get a scry out of it. Multicolor cards are not really what we're looking for here. We'll play a land. We'll go to combat. We'll draw a card. And now we will play this. And then we'll hold the Paratrooper and kind of wait and see. End turn. Sure. They want to effectively use all their mana. All right, so they had another one of those cards, which is very solid for their deck that's really heavily artifact-based. They definitely drew really good there. I guess we take 3. It's kind of late, but it's definitely not a bad card to have. But I think we play this card instead. And I think we draw, and we attack again. Just trying to get some card advantage, pretty much at this point. We have great attacks on the ground. The Combat Courier is a good card to see. They're trying to find an answer. They're going to dig for an answer. They do have a card draw out of this if they want to draw a card. They got a whole fistful of cards here. A 2/2. An Ichor Wellspring. And some Mine Workers, which will help them gain some life. So definitely a very heavy artifact deck. Sure. If they go all out here, I'm perfectly happy with that. Because they don't really have any good attacks. And I'll take 1 point of damage. Sure. We'll play this, and then we still have 5 open. So I am happy with attacking here. We'll draw a card. Solid. We'll go up to 8 life. They're down to 7 now. Now we're kind of in the driver's seat. That's still fine. Sure. Awesome. And what happens? +1/+1 for each ore and equipment attached to it. Nice. Opponent. And they saw the writing on the walls. Because we have the victory swing on the following turn. We just give our construct fly-in. And are able to attack in for exactly 7 if we don't attack him with anything else. Opponent goes first. I think our hand's okay. Nothing really going on again, but I do think the deck has drawn pretty well. There is a way, a thought process possibly to mulligan that, but I think we have the mana to kind of get to where we need to, and we're good from there. And if our opponent's Evolve on Wilds turn 1, then I'm pretty happy with that, because that means there's not putting any pressure on the battlefield super early. So we'll put a Plains out. We'll say go. We can kind of like slow them down this game by bouncing whatever they're going to play. That's fine. A little awkward, but not bad. Sure. So we're both playing soldiers, which is actually kind of hilarious. Unfortunately, we have not drawn much outside of that. All right, I'll take that trade all day. We'll just end turn. I could play Prison Sentence, but we're not in a pressure to really, do anything with the Paratrooper. Now they have a first striker, so we could bounce that back. The thought process was also to bounce the Paratrooper. part of me is to wait until end of turn, but I do think we'll bounce it now because they don't have. They're not showing that they have white, and they may not have another white mana to actually cast it. And it looks like we are proven to be correct. That we're not going to do anything with. I guess we will play our 1/1, and we're just going to pass. There's no good attacks here because the 1/1 would just attack into the survivor. So we're not really good there with attacks. They may just play the paratrooper, which I'm happy with if they go ahead and do that, because that then will leave us open next turn to play our take flight, which will draw us a card. They're still far away from ever tapping it for 5 because they do not seem to have drawn that 4th land because they would have slammed it, I think. A lot of times when players do draw lands and they want to do something else than play like this kind of play, they will immediately slam the additional land. So I do think we're good here. I mean, I don't think they have a good attack. I would personally just take the 1. And they have to trade, and they have to choose another creature. So they can't choose itself. And I do think we have a much better, unless they have a combat trick, we have a much better trade there. Like, that's being quite aggressive. Yeah, so I think our play is to play this, put it here, and then attack in to draw a card. Awesome. And even with them being lack of mana here, we are kind of winning this race. Because eventually they'll kind of, if they don't draw land, fall behind. They also have a full grip. So it's kind of like surprising that they have not drawn much, and I guess their cards are more expensive. I'm just like really curious to what they have drawn. And we have 2 chances of seeing a top deck land. Sure. And that's perfectly fine. They had to find an answer for that or it was going to be a problem. No blocks. And they also didn't cast the soldier, which is also quite surprising. So, kind of surprised there. I think it's still too hasty to play something like this. I mean, I could do this on their flyer, so then they can't do anything about it. And I guess we get a scry out of it. I mean, they have mana open. There's a possibility they do have some sort of spot removal here. And we get a scry, which is awesome. So both our flyers have been locked down. And we have an ability here to now catch them by surprise. I think the bird's fine. Because I think they're going to have an issue with dealing with it. Now, the real question is, they have something holding priority here. I don't know what it is, so I'm just going to pass. There is a possibility they have the reinforcements, which I don't want to attack into. Sure. Now, the real question is, will they be aggressive here and attack in again? Also did not seem to have drawn a land. We're just kind of, I think we're well ahead in this, regardless of how this works out. Recommission. Return target artifact creature 3 or less from the graveyard. Sure. Doesn't have haste. It's kind of what I wanted to happen, to be quite honest. Because our next turn's still pretty solid. We have 5 lands, so I mean, like, we're doing very well overall. Like, I can easily just desynchronize that. I could do a bunch of things. But I do think we just attack for 1 in the air. We'll just peck away. There's probably no reason that they would think that we have an answer to their flyer. Yet again, do not seem to have drawn that land. They'll plus their creature. I am going to take a little bit of a hit. But I feel like that's fine. We'll play bird. If they have a counterspell to bird, then good for them. We take a hit for that as well. But it's just kind of curious that our opponent has a whole grip full of things. And have not done anything really to deal with the board state. So we'll take 4. It's fine. And I don't think we slam that. I think we play this first. I think this is a better play. We'll just give this. We'll just get rid of that. So now they don't have a flyer. We'll attack. And they're just behind. Like, that's all I can really say here. They're well behind. They can scry. Like, their 2/2 is kind of going the distance so far for them, but sure. I do think the 5/5 is going to be the big issue. No blocks. And we'll just draw another land. We'll play this bad boy. And we'll just swing in for 1. And I'm very surprised our opponent has not drawn an additional land at all. Like, that is kind of crazy. Sure. Tapped out. Not much going on. We're going to give this vigilance. And we'll plus it as well. That's fine. Gain a little bit of life out of it. We say go. They don't have good attack still. I was wondering when they were going to do that. Probably want a land. I'm going to say they're looking for a land, is my best guess here. I don't think I can cast that. I think this is... Yeah, can't be used for anything but artifact spells. Or, like, abilities. So I can, like, use my Avenger if I wanted to. No tax. No tax. Vigilance. So no, they have to choose if they want to block or not. They can't choose the flyer. Sure. And we end turn. Got my point of damage in. I'm happy with it. I I mean, our opponent has gone through almost half their deck, and finally, second land. Or I mean, I should say fourth land. So they finally have gotten themselves in the game. Sure. And they're mainly tapping, of all things. And from what seemed to be a very good attack, has maybe changed into maybe a not so good attack. Because now their enchantment's on top of their library. And they're going to take more than they're going to gain here. So I'm happy with them spending next turn to turn this off. And I can still block, so... And now we're at even life totals. So we're both in a much better standpoint here. Did I keep both on top? No, I put the other one on the bottom. That's their turn again. There is a play here to attack in for 1, gain 1. They're not going to. Well, swing it in the air. They'll go to 4. We'll end turn. All right, they have 5 lands. Sweet. I'd attack. You have very good block. You have a very good attack here. I'm gonna take. No blocks. Hopefully draw something that is not a land. We'll sit back. So what do I do here? Tap 5, pump the team. Kill the lifelinker, go to 1. I can give something fly in, kill the flyer, and go to 2. If I do this twice... Do I have enough, is the question now I'm thinking. I'm missing 1. But I do think that blocking the flyer is probably the strong play here. And saving myself 1 additional life total. I mean, our opponent's been holding a full grip, so there is a possibility that... still dealt 3 damaged. So I say he didn't play that earlier. They must have just drawn it. And we're just... Unfortunately, our opponent's cards were able to stay on the battlefield. And we lose. But I do think that was a very close game. All right. I mean, we finished 6-3, which is always very good. In our first draft, we will get our 850 gems. We'll get our one pack. Will we get a bonus pack? I don't know. Probably unlikely because it is 40%, still less than 50, so it is less than a coin flip that we'll get it. But we'll claim our prize. We did not get the bonus pack, but we did get 850 gems, our Brothers War pack. We now sit at 1450 gems overall, which is definitely very good, especially just starting out. As 1450 is almost enough to do 2 of these events. It's also almost enough to do 1 Premier Draft. 1450 is also very good about buying packs if that's the route we want to go. But I mean, it is nice that the game now just gives you a way to try out if you like drafting in Arena, whereas before you had to spend the gold. Into next video, we will be diving back into the Sparky queue. I may go ahead and unlock some additional dual color starter decks, as I do think we need to do some cleanup before we kind of wrap things up. As at this point, I think it's just play through the Sparky queue twice in a row, and then we're done and essentially on to the main game. So, I mean, overall, the experience is, it's relatively kind of smooth as a new player. The other thing I noticed I didn't do, which I probably should have done before I did the draft, is I probably should have re-rolled my daily quest, and I guess we'll just have to wait until tomorrow. And we did get lucky. We were able to get a 750 quest, so that is very solid for us to go into tomorrow with. We did get 6 wins on the day. We finished our weekly XP. In our packs, we have 7 Wilds of Eldraine. I don't know if that's where we started, but we have 7, and we also have 6 Brothers War, or we have 6 Alchemy Brothers War and a regular Brothers War. So that's where we're at there. If you guys want to leave any feedback down in the comments below, I know this video is a little bit long. I'm not sure how much I'll cut out in between, if we're going to do everything per se. So I'm not 100% sure what at the end of the video, what you'll 100% see. I am going to try to leave at least the victories in, maybe some of the close games, like especially that last game. But, it is something with it being over 2 hours of recorded video. I don't know if that's something someone will want to sit through for the whole experience. But like I said, this is something that I am. And that's a wrap overall. Tomorrow's video, we will be diving into our next quest, which is to get to Spark Tier Rank 2. I think at this point, it's just grind out the Spark Tier rank up until all the way until you finish. So I do think it may be only 2 more quests until we're actually done completely, which is not the most exciting overall. One thing I didn't do, which I did, and I just kind of had to reshoot this, is I did reroll my quest. It still would have probably not mattered. We may have been able to get this with just the blue spells, but we do have a 750 gold waiting for us tomorrow in tomorrow's video as we go up in the Spark rank. We are pretty decent overall in currency. We do have, still our 2 commons, 1 uncommon. We haven't opened any packs, so there's not a high chance that we'd have additional copies of this. We have 6,250 gold. We have 1,450 gems. We have a bunch of packs that will eventually open after we're done with all this new player experience stuff. I didn't check the store. We'll dive into the store real quick, check what the daily deals are. Are there any discounts on packs? We got 15% off, which is 850 gold or 170 gems. I am not going to buy that. I don't really find a 15% discount really to be worth it. Really, where we want to be is this whole golden pack thing is kind of where you want to go if you're going to be diving into buying packs, as every time you buy 10 packs, you'll get a special golden pack that will have rares and mythics in it and no wild cards, which is definitely a good jump start to a new player's collection. And the same thing goes for everything else. We don't really need the cosmetics, so all that stuff is probably never going to be bought in on a free-to-play account unless you're that far ahead or you feel like you have extra currency that you want to spend. Whereas all our currency is kind of coveted until we really want to make some dramatic purchases overall. But with that being said, if you like the video, hit that like button. If you're new here, you want to post new videos like this one here on the channel, hit that subscribe button. But until next time, I'll see you in the next video.